Right to Benue State now, where the Central Bank of Nigeria has arrested 4 POS operators in the capital, Makurdi. They were accused of taking advantage of the public. The operation was carried out in collaboration with Anti-Graft Agency, EFCC, and ICPC in major markets and POS outlets across the city. All right, let's take a look at the economic impact of the CBN's policy, and renowned economist Teriba joins us now from our studios in Lagos. Very warm welcome, Teriba, to Newsnight. These are not very warm periods for Nigerians. The weather here is really asphyxiating together with the economic situation. But so far, is it been so good, you know, for the Central Bank of Nigeria's cashless policy and the new Naira note policy and the experiences of the Nigerian nation? I don't want to add the issue of the judiciary to this. Ayo.
Okay. Yeah, good evening. Well, thank you very much. Well, from what we can observe on the streets around us, banks around us, in markets around us, the redesign, the currency redesign, the replacement, currency replacement, you know, replacing the old notes with the new notes has not been seamless, has, you know, been accompanied with a lot of hiccups, a lot of obstructions to economic transactions. People who need money but can't get it, people who have to queue for hours at the bank, you know, either over the counter or at ATMs, and at the end of the day still cannot get the money they seek, is going to be a very huge cost to the country in terms of economic transactions that could have been consummated but cannot be consummated. At the end of the day, the longer this lasts, the higher the likelihood that Nigeria will pay a huge price in terms of GDP contraction. So the earlier this can be resolved, the better for Nigeria. So it cannot be seen just as suffering of the people. We have to begin to see it as lost economic transactions across the country, and across all the 774 local government areas. And that will be very unfortunate. I do not think that we should allow any real-life experiment to cost us economic growth at a time that the economy is trying to struggle to resume growth. In a nutshell, that would be my take.
Right, Mr. Teriba, I mean, let me take it from the word you used, moments ago, an experiment. Do you think that is what, the CBN policy amounts to? Changing the Naira, because according to the central bank, there's too much money in circulation, and of course to curb the activities of criminals and all of that. Is that what you're saying it is? And what would you say are the immediate, and long-term implications of the CBN policy, especially as it insists that extending the deadline is not necessary, against the ruling, of course, of the Supreme Court?
Okay, let's take this one by one. The central bank's claim that there is too much cash in circulation is at variance with the facts. It is not true that there is too much cash in circulation. The central bank is interpreting cash in circulation literally, saying there is 3 trillion currency in circulation, only 700 billion is adequate, etc. That's an illiterate view of the economy. That's not the way economists look at currency in circulation. You have to look at currency in circulation in relation to the level of economic transaction that currency is going to fund. And if you look at it, the Nigerian GDP today is 210 trillion. 3 trillion compared to 210 trillion is not a lot. That's about 1.5% of the GDP. So if you are now trying to force a 210 trillion economy to use 700 billion cash, you are more likely to bring that economy to a halt. I do not know if we are still communicating.
Absolutely, still very much communicating. And the fundamental question is, what is the cost of this to the national economy? Respected economists actually put figures to it, saying it will cost Nigeria about $18 million monthly. It looks like we've lost connection with
the
Mr.
connection, yeah.
Teriba there. Okay, Mr. Teriba, you're back, thankfully. I was saying that respected economist Rewani actually put a figure to what Nigeria stands to lose as part of its GDP monthly, saying Nigeria stands to lose about $18 million monthly with the CBN policy.
Well, let's talk in terms of trillions of naira. Nigeria's economy is about 210 trillion around now. Yeah, so if people cannot get the cash to consummate transactions at the retail end, you are going to lose a significant fraction of the GDP. We are looking for GDP growth. We are likely to have a GDP decline. And I do not think any Nigerian will want that to happen. Now, so whether that's going to be a trillion lost or a 2 trillion lost remains to be seen. It depends on how long the uncertainty lasts. We've been at this since December 15, and yeah, tomorrow is going to be February 15. How much longer will the uncertainty last? If we cut it short tomorrow and things return to normalcy, you will say you've minimized the loss. But if you let it drag any further, then you should expect the threat, of a growth contraction, if not the threat of a recession.
All right, Ayo, most economists and the people are concerned about the inflationary trend with the new policy. What level do you think the Nigerian inflationary situation is trending? And two, I don't know if you are aware of this, that the Naira is now an exchange rate to the Naira itself. And if you go to the Bureau de Change with the new Naira notes, you buy dollars at about 430 or 450 Naira to a dollar. That's where you go with the brand.
With the new currency.
With the new currency. Mm-hmm. What are the dangers here?
Well, you're asking questions about inflation. You are talking about the exchange rate and the rest of it. I haven't taken the new Naira note to the Bureau de Change. So I'm taking this information from you as news. But the point is that you've created two categories of Naira. The central bank has demonized the old notes. So the public looks at it now as bad money. Nobody wants it. And they look at the newly redesigned notes as good money. That's the one they want. So you are saying you will get a different rate for the new money compared with the old money. But the reality is that majority of the people are beginning to reject the old money outright. So I'd be surprised if there's any Bureau de Change who is ready to take it from you at a bigger exchange rate when the general public out there are unsure whether they can continue to receive it. There is uncertainty as we speak about whether it remains a legal tender or it doesn't, whether it's a legal tender or not. Should people accept it? Should people not accept it? The Supreme Court says continue to accept. The central bank hasn't come out to say, yeah, continue to accept. So it creates uncertainty, which at the end of the day, what suffers? When two elephants, clash, it is the grass that is going to suffer. We are injuring our own economy. It's not about inflation, it's about growth. It's not about inflation, it's about recession. You know, if you say you want to control a patient's temperature by draining blood out of the system, you are more likely to kill the patient. Yeah.
But one last one. How will all of this policy flip-flop on the part of the Central Bank of Nigeria, how will it affect credibility and trust for the central bank and, of course, the federal government?
Well, central bank on one part, federal government on another part. This is a very low moment for central banking in Nigeria, in which central bank is coming across as exercising very bad judgment. They had said they will conclude this on the 31st, and even a few days to that 31st, the central bank governor was speaking at the Monetary Policy Committee, you know, vehemently saying he has no apology for people who want him to shift. He will not shift, only for him to shift on Sunday, you know, from 31st to 10. That's not good for his sense of judgment. That's not good for his credibility. So it means that the people who had been telling him to move the date had been wrong all along, and I've been right all along, and he has been wrong. Now, so is he moving? You know, we tend to be binding, we tend not to be binding. We will see tomorrow at the Supreme Court. It's painting the central bank in a very bad light, and it's making the central bank come across as not understanding how to interpret currency data, telling us that 700 billion is all you need to run a 210 trillion economy, not 3 trillion. Saying there's too much cash in circulation, but not referencing the GDP, because you can't tell whether it's too much or too little unless you relate it to GDP. So it's making the central bank look very bad. And it's making it look like there are people outside of the central bank that understand this issue better than the people in the central bank.
All right.
Well, yes, that's what we have to leave it, Mr. Teriba. Thank you very much. An economist joining us and helping us understand this policy developments on the part of the Central Bank of Nigeria.